Well, hello, everyone out there, Those Boys fans. My name is Nathan.
I am Zach.
And we are those boys who were raised in the Christian church, who ended up leaving that church and making it out alive. Because you always say.
Because not everyone else does.
Not everyone else does. We're those boys who left the church and started a podcast to talk about our past religious trauma.
Mm-hmm. In Calvary Chapel Christianity.
At least, that's what we were raised in.
That's what we know.
Culty chapel. Calvary Culty Chapel. And so if this is the first time you've come and joined us here on Those Boys, whether you're listening or watching, thanks for being here.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
We would ask or encourage you to watch if you're just listening, because this is a visual podcast.
Especially with the way you look right now, baby. You looking like you trying to turn me away from the Lord's work.
You know that show everyone's talking about, like Yellowstone?
Is that what everyone's talking about?
I'm a cross between Brokeback Mountain and Yellowstone.
Okay. Yellow Mountain.
See, if you're watching right now, then you're watching.
If you're looking at a screen, it means you're watching.
This is a perfect time to ask, how do I look?
You look good today.
How do I look?
Really good. Yeah, I like the fit.
Thanks, man.
I like how it actually did start with the one button.
Yeah.
And then now it's like you've gotten two more off.
Yeah,
good for you.
Because right before we said action.
Yeah.
It's like for some reason those two buttons came down right away. It's like right at the last minute.
Totally.
But happy to be here. And in back of house, finishing the website probably tonight, our sister in the universe, Chantel C. Bogue. That's C. Bogue Design. Follow her on all social media platforms. Besides Twitter. We don't use Twitter. Just kidding. She uses Twitter probably.
Actually, who's using Twitter anymore?
Nobody uses Twitter anymore.
I mean, I didn't use it before, but I would every once in a while still go post on it. Mm-hmm. Like have a new release. I still post my releases to Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't even, not anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I mean, who are you posting for? Elon Musk?
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Do you think he'd listen to your music?
No, he would hate my music.
Yeah.
I don't think he even likes music.
Interesting.
I think he just listens to math equations being solved.
No, I thought didn't he have a kid with that DJ? It's like a DJ, she's like a female DJ dancer. I don't know how she identifies, but pretty sure she's a girl.
Because he likes music, or he just likes... Yeah, he is Russian. Maybe he comes from like straight deep
Russian.
Deep techno.
Yeah, we're finishing the website and it looks beautiful. I'm excited to get it out there. And it feels oddly like perfect timing too, because this is episode 30.
This is episode 30.
Happy 30th episode.
Yeah,
man.
they just keep going.
The first 10 episodes, not really about religious trauma. Last 20 episodes, all about religious trauma.
Yeah. So, the continued theme.
If you are wanting to go back and see some history for those boys, you will see us casting in the living room, the family room, all over.
Yeah.
That was pretty. Remember when we podcasted in front of the fireplace?
Yeah. Good clips. There's sometimes some people will comment on a video from far away, and I'll be like, oh, this one was good. And I'll rewatch it. And it was the funniest of vibes that we were giving off at that time.
It's just pure.
But it's really fun.
It's like
we can be pretty funny, dude. That's what I think we're pretty funny. We've had such a serious cast like us.
We are very funny.
I think
we are very funny.
I'm just not trying to promote that. Like I can amount to humor.
I think I'm hilarious.
You're so good, dude.
My fiance tells me all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, she does.
Let's jump into it.
Mm-hmm.
Last cast, we were just catching up on some bullshit and having some fun.
In the comments section, that was a fun little bit.
The comments section, we showed some video of me dancing, which was hilarious. That podcast took me forever to edit because I was trying out some new editing stuff. So if you're watching, I hope you enjoyed it. But I wanted to say a big shout out for Real One, released recently.
Oh, yeah.
And know that you're real one. Good track, man.
Thanks, dude.
I love it. I love that island vibes.
Yeah, Afrobeat.
Island vibes.
Yes, indeed.
And Chantel, the artwork was beautiful too. So
yeah, the artwork actually wasn't supposed to be that either. And then she got inspired by listening to the song and changed the whole thing. And it totally works so much better.
Because the song's so moody. No, I can't believe.
It's so the song, dude. I'm so happy.
No, I can't believe. That trill you do is so on point, man. And but like the colors are playing, because it's so moody, but then like the lighter colors make it flows nice.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about that. So that's out. Go check it out. Signs. And but we're back. We're back to talk more.
We're back to talk about more trauma.
We're about to talk more about our trauma.
Let's talk about trauma.
And I think it was the last cast and the cast before that we kind of hinted to the fact that we were jumping into the trauma of the Bible.
Yes, very big topic.
The sound of like paper pages. The one true book.
The one true book. The only book you can actually fully trust with your entire being.
The living word of God.
Mm-hmm.
It's alive.
Even the red letters.
The red letters. Well, those are the letters that Jesus spoke. It's a sword.
Mm-hmm.
When I was really young, I actually was like kind of confused about that. Like, how is this book a sword? How is this a sword? It's not a sword.
Yeah. But
I see over there that you have a PhD level amount of notes. So you have some trauma with this one, don't you, buddy?
No, I just needed to take notes because it's a big topic.
It's a big topic, I know.
And I don't want to approach it with a very single-minded opinion because when I'm just speaking about my trauma, I speak very much what I'm feeling in that moment.
Yeah.
And there's multiple times where I feel like we just kind of missed like a bigger picture sometimes.
Well, I think that I kind of, maybe it's due to nervousness or just being on camera, that something I've noticed just by editing it is once again, like you'll start to say something and I'll fill the void after by podcasting with you, but not like really investing in what you're talking about. And so I think you hit some we both hit points. I talk a lot. And I think you hit some really good points. And so I'm glad you took notes because I think it's, you should start it off. Lead the way on how the living word of God killed you as a child.
Well, it didn't in terms of a lot of the trauma we talk about on this cast. The Bible being traumatic is traumatic because it was taught to us as the one true book. And I believed that so deeply to the point of like defying science. And it put me on a path of learning only what the religion approved of me knowing. And like, I don't know, it's all because of this Bible and being taught to you at such an extreme level of anything you read in that book is true. And you can believe that, even if it's bad, even if it's wrong, even if it's speaking out against homosexuality and you feel uncomfortable about that, you can trust that the Bible's not lying to you. It's like, that's really the trauma, because then when you let go of that, you're like, that book actually feels very manipulative now. And the verses that I relied so heavily on seemed like that wasn't really real or ever was good in the first place. And it for me, at least, it just makes you like really question yourself, because I gave so much of myself to the Bible.
You feel like you gave yourself to the Bible? In
terms of like my beliefs growing up, and especially at a young age, like I didn't really let go of the Bible and the idea of the Bible until like 17, 18.
Like you mean like you like lost a lot of your life giving it to the Bible, like reading it, believing it as the one true book. One of the things you just said was, the Bible could, growing up, the Bible could never lie. And so they call it like the law, right? The Bible's also the law of God. Yeah. And so how do you feel like, would you say like for you then when you talk about it, the way it feels for you is, do you feel lied to?
I mean, yeah. I mean, all of my religious trauma feels like I'm lied to.
Of course, but like talking about the Bible, this thing that's the one, it's like the rule book, the 10 Commandments. Like you're saying, talking about homosexuality. And so like, Is it the Bible itself that lied to you? Like this book, this manuscript full of lies?
I think if it was looked at as like a history book, maybe no.
But what about like other history books?
But they're not the one true book. So when you're in that religion, like the only things that are real are of that religion. So like the Bible. I mean, I know you're just playing devil's advocate and trying to like
I'm just
ask
saying
the questions.
I'm just trying to like pick more at what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think like talking about homosexuality and sex before marriage and, do you feel like the Bible had a direct effect on your ability to even perceive these lifestyles? Like, when did you perceive homosexuality? Like, when did it become conscious for you that homosexuality was not a sin, that there was no such thing as sin?
Yeah.
Right? Not trying to put words into your mouth, but like the idea is like, did all these things kind of come into perspective right away where you were like, oh my God, this book that I've been like reading is lying to me. It's not a sin to be a homosexual. It's, like these, like, when did that start to happen?
Later for me, because I just was surrounded by my parents for so long, but then also just the church for so long. I didn't really like get out of it in terms of just not being surrounded by its influence for such a long time that homosexuality always felt like a sin to me until I like 24. I can think where I started to really plan to leave mom and dad's house and also just not be around the church anymore. And I started to have a lot of more gay friends that I thought were some of the best people I've ever met in my life, and like really challenging what I was raised on, but letting go of like the sin with like younger, like 19-ish. But it was hard for me to let go of the idea
like
of that
the conditioning.
Yeah. The conditioning was so deep. I even brought it up to our father, trying to explain to him some trauma, because he was back when we used to watch some of the clips. He was mentioning that he doesn't understand this trauma, and I was trying to mention to him that you raised me homophobic, and that led me to this, and this, and this, and it's like it's traumatic coming out of that, Dad. And then he had paused and was like, "Okay, I see that."
Really?
Well, I mean, at least from the idea of if you didn't want to keep believing this, Dad, look at how hard I have to work to get out of it now.
Yeah, I mean, it's logical.
Yeah, but it was a great moment, honestly, on like talking about that.
I would really hope that the reality of us sharing honest, vulnerable, kind of sacrificing only our personal experiences, not our fathers or our mothers. I would hope that this would ultimately bring us all closer together. And so I know that like this podcast definitely has kind of drawn a line in the sand, but it's nice to, I know that conversation you had with Dad was really powerful. And I think it's logical. But getting back at it, let's keep going down your notes. You tell me what you got there.
So I took a bunch of notes, and then I saw this TikTok where you could like put your like text into like some sort of generator, and it will generate it into a font that's better to read if you have really bad ADHD. And it totally works for me, but with all the highlights I've done, I'm having a tough time remembering. But I took these notes on Wednesday. So those are the things I took on Wednesday because we were supposed to cast on Wednesday.
Why don't you just read the whole first thing? Because I read the first sentence when I was sitting there getting the camera all set up.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way to start it off.
Okay. Yeah. So this is just something me and my writer chat GPT came up with.
Perfect.
On the why believing the Bible is the one true book could be traumatic to somebody.
Yeah. And everything is a short.
Yes.
Give it to them.
The Bible could be traumatic. This belief of the Bible. Okay. I'll take that one more time.
You're good.
The belief that the Bible should be the one and only true book is problematic for several reasons. Firstly, it assumes that the Bible is the only source of truth and wisdom, which overlooks the fact that other religious and philosophical traditions offer valuable insights and teachings. This view limits our ability to learn and appreciate diverse perspectives. Secondly, the belief that the Bible is the only true book can lead to closed-mindedness and dogmatism, which can result in intolerance, division, and conflict. Individuals who believe their interpretation of the Bible is the only correct one may be unwilling to engage in constructive dialogue with those who hold different beliefs. Lastly, the idea that the Bible is the one and only true book can be used to justify oppressive and discriminatory beliefs and actions. By ignoring other sources of knowledge, individuals may ignore actions that are harmful to women, LGBTQ individuals, and other religious or ethnic groups. In conclusion, it is crucial to approach the Bible and other sources of knowledge with an open and critical mind, to recognize the value of diverse perspectives and traditions, and to avoid harmful beliefs and actions.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's our cast.
That's our cast, baby.
Yeah, I think so. Like, kind of just that summarizes in a nutshell the power of what the Bible being raising children, and in this way that we were, and in the Calvary Chapel, from the book, from the Word of God, by the Word is the Calvary Chapel motive, right? We read the Word from beginning to end and never stop, over and over and over. And so it's a huge part of their relationship with God. And it's oppressive. It causes closed-mindedness.
Gives reason to hate.
Gives reason to not be connected with others. It's tunnel vision, right? One way or the highway. And then the other one that you were saying, something else in there, was that there's so much room for interpretation, which normally causes division within the church itself, which is probably the most flimsiest foundation you can have for a manuscript for a business. We all believe the same manuscript, but we don't believe it in the same way. Like, that's all, that's the history. That's what it's talking about. You know, that's a recipe for disaster, right? For children. If you're a pastor's kid.
Yeah.
If, you know, yeah. So that's what I took from it.
Yeah.
And anything you want to say to that?
I mean, I took a bunch of more notes on how, like, the Bible breaks all these fallacies and got really critical thinking on it. But I feel like that we should just kind of resonate on that instead.
Yeah. I just think, like, we opened it up personally for you, right? And about how, like, the way it felt for you with homosexuality because of the Bible. Like, these things came up, right? Like, I remember leaving mom and dad, like when I would visit mom and dad's after being kicked out and leaving the church and all this, and finally things had kind of resolved and leveled out. And, you know, it was like, this always kind of came up, like the Bible, like people interpreted the Bible differently. And some people would be like, don't interpret it literally. You'd hear that all the time. Like, you don't have to interpret it. That's way back in the day. And like the thought I used to always have back then, and I wasn't like, it was just emotional and triggering, but like, is that, so because this was back in the day, that means it was okay then too? No. I mean, it doesn't mean it's ever okay to hate people and say this way or the highway, right? There's a lot of other manuscripts out there for religions that aren't nearly as oppressive, if at all.
Well, and you look at like how much just generation to generation we change and our belief systems change.
And the Bible never does.
The Bible's what, 2,000 years old? And they're talking about crazy stuff in there. And why can't...
And the Bible has changed a lot, right? It's been handed down through rewritten.
We believe that. You and I believe that, and maybe other people that don't follow the faith believe that. But we were always told that the Bible, you match them to the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it's a perfect match, and it shows that the Dead Sea Scrolls were even older, way older than all these other things, and it doesn't like really confirm anything, really, but it still is just like this oppressive book.
Yeah, every time I just remember like so much trying to like getting into conversations with Christians after I'd left the church about how the Bible isn't the one true book, and how leaving everything up to interpretation is dangerous and stuff. And people's always like, their response would always be, so confusing.
Yeah.
Like mind spirals around it, you know? Like, I mean, that's most things with this, right? It's like one way or the highway, so it doesn't really matter. Even if the truth is like right there in front of you. Like, hey, that's a human being. And they're in love with somebody and they can love whoever they want. And that other person's like, yeah. But I don't agree with that, the way they're loving that person.
Yeah.
It's like, they can love them. I just don't think they should act on it. That sounds like you're putting your view on someone else, right? And so it's like they're always pushing the line, but it's still this. It's our way or the highway. It's still squeezing it like, okay, fine. Like, we know that you're gay and we're not going to kick you out of the church. We're not going to hate you and we're not going to like belittle you, but you just can't actually act on anything that you feel, which is kind of how it felt being raised in the church. Similar, right? Hey, I have these thoughts. You're not allowed to have those thoughts. Don't have those thoughts. Kind of what we were talking about the last podcast about the youth pastors, right? It's like how I'm going to college. You don't want to do that. It'll pull away more from God. That's why I'm going.
Yeah.
Or more from the church.
Yeah.
You know, it's like any sort of maybe truth that is outside of the Bible is not a truth. That's a lie. And now it feels like, yeah. And so, it's quite fascinating. I remember a lot of my personal connection with the Bible. I pulled out I have all my Bibles. And all of my notes, everything I have. Because I'm a pack rat and I collect everything. And this shit is crazy in my Bible, man. And
you probably, because you still have all the notes and stuff. I still have my old Bible
first
too.
Bible, the one that Dad bought me. And it's nice. I mean, even the way I feel about it, it's like, man, this was a good gift.
Yeah.
Because whether it's a Bible or an Xbox, a gift from your father is like that, like a personal gift that they love, they're going to give to you. Like, you're going to hold onto that for the rest of your life. That's how I felt about that book. I read it all the time. I studied it all the time. I memorized verses out of it. I took notes in it. I pulled it out. And it's torn up and all this, but there's just basically notes on every page. And I'm like, oh, that's right. I forgot that I read this entire thing. Did you actually read the entire Bible front to back?
Not from necessarily like starting in Genesis and ending in Revelation.
But not like one all the way through, but would you say throughout your life? Or would you,
I mean, at least.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, of course.
And you and I both have the hardest time reading now. Like, actually, like, and I don't want to put that on you, but like for me, I read more now, but it's like,
well, I mean, just even reflecting on that, it's like that could have been a lot of the reasons why I didn't like reading growing up.
So, segue.
Because I hated reading growing up.
Segue is a lot of what I was thinking about with this cast was like what to talk about the trauma wise, and a lot of that's where I think honestly I'm sure it's for the both of us. There is this feeling of like reading that's so deeper than just like, I love books. I love getting into stories. But then when it comes to like the work that's required, that's just part of life with everything. And like reading is work until you get really good practice at it. And once you get better at it, you just comprehend and it flows. And that's just really the truth. It's like, I don't know. And so, but I've always, at least the last couple of years, I've been thinking more and more, talking with Megan about it, that like, there's got to be a connection to the trauma of the Bible and reading it to like just reading in general.
That'd be an interesting statistic. People that like technically have reading disorders or like have a tough time reading and were raised in the church.
Or
raised to read the Bible as much as we were.
Or people that at least like read the Bible like we did, you know, and then it's crazy to think about, you know, like you got, and that's a whole topic we could talk about, the connections to like education and reading comprehension and getting into stories as a kid, you know, whether it be Lord of the Rings or Star Trek or Star Wars, right? Like, you know, these stories that are endless, that like just so much out there that is, you know, like you don't jump into because it's not the Bible. I guess there are certain stories like Chronicles of Narnia, you know, that are like,
but that's the reason why
Christians
we didn't watch Harry Potter, is because you couldn't turn it into Jesus.
Yeah, there was no lion being killed.
You could turn Chronicles of Narnia into the lion as Jesus. Therefore, it's a good Christian thing.
It's a good Christian thing. Yeah.
Or
like how the Matrix was used in real studies. Or Lord of the Rings was always used in real studies. I always thought that was so interesting.
Oh, you mean Bible studies? I thought you were talking scientific.
No, I mean like Bible
when
studies.
When are they using that scientifically?
Yeah, those peer-reviewed articles on Lord of the Rings.
Had me there for a second.
No, like Lord of the Rings was a Christian. Christians love Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, can't tell you how many times I was in a study and they'd use movies as the metaphor for getting a point across.
Yeah, maybe that's why I love movies.
Yeah,
I'm like, these movies have nothing to do with God. They were lying. The Matrix has nothing to do with Jesus.
How would they turn the Matrix?
He
being saved is being awoken.
He's like Neo is the new man. He's Jesus. He comes, goes to Zion and saves the people. The white man saves the people by giving his life. Spoiler alert. And if you haven't seen it, get a life.
Love it, dude. Spoiler.
Yeah, it's another white man saving the world by giving his life story. So that's pretty much the Jesus story.
Jesus wasn't white.
Oh my God. Sure, but that's not how we were raised.
I mean, he looked whiter.
That was the number one. It's like, we don't really know what the skin color was back then, but the pictures are this.
Yeah, the pictures.
Like every Catholic church. I mean, I have the Sacred Heart of Jesus in the bathroom because it's a beautiful picture and it's hilarious. But it's like, it's a picture of a dainty white man.
Yeah. With long hair.
He's
dainty white man.
Oh, God. Literally.
Mm.
Moving right along.
Yeah.
You got something?
Go for it.
I was just going to say that something like I was thinking a lot about was how as a kid going through the Bible and reading it, and feeling like I was doing the Lord's work and I was communicating and learning and studying. And it really felt like that. Like I'm really studying and I'm learning and I'm doing the Lord, what God has for me by reading the word, the living word, the shield and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I would be reading it, and Genesis is exciting, God created the heavens and the earth. And, Adam and Eve are naked and then they have clothes because of the snake. Oh my God. Exodus with Moses and parting the Red Sea and all of the plagues. It's this is crazy. And then you get into Deuteronomy or Leviticus, which are just names, literally.
Really dull.
Hundreds of thousands of names.
Yeah.
And they're not easy names.
Yeah.
And I remember being 12 years old and being reading got everything the sister and foot of, and I would think I don't doing good by reading this book. And I read all of Deuteronomy. I remember being oh my, I didn't understand it, but I just knew that there's not something spiritual. There's nothing spiritual about those books. But I was kind of mind fucked because I would read them.
Mm-hmm.
Morning devotions, go read your Bible. Okay, I'm in Leviticus right now.
I avoided so many books, man. I just go
straight names.
What's the one book you always go straight to because you're just I'm over this Bible?
Out of all of the Bible, it depends how horny I was.
Yeah, well, Song of Solomon if you're really trying to get off.
Yeah. Pastor's kids. Come on. Let's get it.
But where do you go when you're you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to read some
Psalms,
maybe.
Because each chapter was a verse. And I was,
exactly. I've read 8 chapters today. It was 1 page.
Zach always read so many chapters.
Yeah, so many chapters.
We had morning devotions. Whereas Nathan, he's in the thick of it reading Deuteronomy. Whereas Zach's reading Psalms again. Just let him read.
Yeah, we're just happy he's reading.
Just let him read.
Yeah.
And I'll just be dude, he's smarter. I have a lot of guilt here.
Let's
I have a lot of shame.
Let's try to conceptualize how much we were told to read our Bibles to our listeners. How much, try to remember back. Camps, everything. Our daily lives with our parents in our household, also being at camps, how much we would read there, devotions, all that stuff. How much do you remember reading your Bible?
Well, if I was on a good day, I would wake up and read it. And then
every morning?
Every morning. And then it was always out. It's for us, I don't know. It's the Bibles are always out, but read it every morning as part of my morning devotion. And then I would Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday was church. So a lot of Bible reading then. And then I'd read it on before I go to bed.
Yeah.
Sometimes during the day because I'm studying.
Yeah.
So.
And then when you're at camps, it's
camps are just like, that's what we talked about with Austin, which shout out Austin.
Yeah.
We love you, man. But he pointed out, like he'd went to that camp. What episode was that with Austin? Was it 10? 12?
That we had him on? I thought it was 16.
You would remember. Thank you, Zach.
But I could be way wrong.
Thank you, Snacker. Well, anyways, when the one interview we've had Austin, he would say that you go to the camp and get like supercharged.
Yeah.
So like camps are just different. But like in our lives, every day was a day at camp in our house. Yeah. It was kind of like I'd wake up and, some days it just felt like that. It'd be like time to do my morning devotion.
Yeah. But that's why when you're like, have you read the book? I'm like, well, I mean, of course we read it every day.
I know, but like you would go to Psalms. I'm just trying to figure out like where you were at growing up.
Now that you say it, I might have skipped a few of the Old Testament, like Leviticus.
Yeah, the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, the ones where it's named, list names. Dude, I couldn't do it, dude.
Yeah, you're smart. Why would anybody like as a 10-year-old do that?
Yeah.
But I'm there like, I gotta do it to be the best because I want Dad to be so proud of me by reading all the names of Deuteronomy.
It worked. It worked.
The levels of trauma that it came to those names.
You were a Jesus warrior until about 13, but you were.
Oh, it worked.
Bible memorization, Bible reciting. I'll get you saved, and I'm a powerful young man.
Yep.
And then 13, and you were like, nope.
Yeah, 13 was like, okay, life's a little bit harder when you're hard.
Yeah, it's true.
And then it got harsher. And then it got softer.
T-shirt. Life's a little harder when you're hard.
Yeah, it's true. It's just absolutely true. And then one of the ways that I've been feeling so soft is exactly what you're thinking. In my life, when I feel like every day I'm softer in work, with people, when I normally feel harsher, I feel softer like you would on just a nice soft day. You know what I mean by that? You know what I mean by when you're hard, life is harder?
Yes.
Well, when you're soft,
your soft life is
softer. You know what I mean?
Because life's still hard.
It's the difference between this and this.
Oh.
Hear that? This?
Yeah.
And this. Moving on.
Right along. Please. What is that?
Is somebody sawing in the rain? Dude, that sounds like, what's his name on YouTube? Right now in the background, we're hearing somebody sawing and it's pouring rain outside. So what was that prankster on YouTube who got shut down? Ross Creations. Yeah. And he did the one in Florida during the hurricane where he would show up people's random houses with like a whole truck and like sucking water or something out. Yeah. He was like, yeah, we're here to like take all the water. What was it? And they're like, what? No. Get off my lawn. And they're like,
wouldn't they go to like clean their house in the rain or something?
It was something outside and all of a sudden a hose would be
But it would always be during like one of the big Florida hurricanes.
Yeah, it was like the most recent one. Yeah. That's what that sounds like. It's like someone sawing outside in the rain.
Yeah.
Just getting ready for the big storm, a little late.
Oh, man.
More books, I'm thinking, because I was just kind of like thinking about the books. Bible.
Yeah.
Is as you move down the Bible, you get to a book called Judges. And in our youth, right, growing up, Dad used to always make this joke. The book of Judges, and mind you, we're talking about religious trauma here. We're not talking about the religion itself. This is about the trauma of what the Bible has done to children, us. But our father would make jokes, right? He would like make things fun. And at like night when we were young, they would read the Bible to us. Like part of our bedtime story was the Bible stories or singing beautiful night songs, which was just wonderful. It's like a little mixture of both, And our dad's joke was always like, I'm going to read you Judges, the lights off and a flashlight. Because the book of Judges is like extremely violent, given the name Judges, right? It's all about like God's judgment on, I don't know. But I always thought that was like really interesting just to see the levels of like as a kid, visceral memories of like Dad putting like such violent books of this Bible that like are wild books that I read all the way through. I mean, actually, I think part of Judges like really scared me as a kid. just the darkness in those.
A lot of the Bible was terrifying as a child, dude.
I mean, like, I was so desensitized. I didn't really know that until I got out. Like that person that commented on our video, that's like, he just had no idea how much trauma was there until I left it.
Totally.
But what was like an endearing memory is that, like, I loved Dad using the Bible as a joke when we were kids. I'm going to read you this book, and he would sell that to the youth group. So what's hard for me is, like, you have all of this type of trauma, but like when it comes to the Bible, it's not just the book itself, it's the relationship that our father had to it. I mean, he lived and breathed this thing. He studied it. He preached on it every single Sunday, every single Wednesday night, Friday night. So we lived with a expert of the Word of God. And I think that has a big effect on how I think of, like, experts on their craft. I have a completely different appreciation for experts of their craft. But when I left the church and when I left, like, all of this in the Bible is this big freaking lie, tip to tail, mixed in with some nice ooey gooey, like, love your neighbor as thyself and turn the other cheek.
Yeah.
Gays go to hell. Is that I did feel really personally, like, lied to. And that's not an expert. You're not an expert. There are experts, like, of the, like, for instance, like, other religions that use the same Bible, but in their church, there's like a huge requirement of other education, in terms of, like, being an expert in academia, as well as, like, being a preacher or something, or, priest. And so it kind of fucked up my, like, view of what it means to be an expert on a book. For a while. And, like, I know we talked about the last cast talking about how, like, trusting people was really easy. Like, if somebody, like, said something about a supplement, it'd be easy to, like, fall right in. I'll buy that. But on this level of, like, really expert talk, when I broke out of the church and was like 17, 18 and in nursing, or, like, started college and was really busy, like, it took me a while to break free from, like, trust, like being able to trust experts in their craft, like scientists and historians. And
because you were lied to from the Bible,
and also because our father was an expert of the Word of God, who read it all the time, who, like, put it on us, joked about it, all these things, like, to where when I, like, grew up and, like, was able to see it from a bigger picture, it was like everyone that's an expert on their book or their craft, it's kind of like, but it's all a lie, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, even though that wasn't, like, I wasn't thinking that way, that's just how, like, my visceral response to, like, I was so against people that were like, this is the way, like, I did this research and this is why. And it was like, well, I don't believe anything anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you were running away from the one thing that you believed for so long as a child.
So everything was hard to believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though I felt
trust issues.
I felt so, like, pliable. Like, it was so easy to, like, pick up another religious book. Like, when I was thinking about it, like, what did I really read after I stopped reading the Bible? I read all the other Bibles of all the other religions. That's like what I did. I read like the Torah, I read the Quran, and then I read Hinduism, and then I read about Buddhism. But I actually read their, like, I tried to find all the Bible version texts of these religions, and I read them. I was really good at it. Like, right into, like, my first year in college, I read all of them because I was, like, so in Bible reading, like, it was still a huge part. Like, and so, like, my text choice, although I felt like that was a really smart thing to do, like, I was really good at religion. I'm really good at, or, like, maybe not, I don't know anymore, but, like, I was really good at really reading religious texts even after the church. But I didn't believe any of these religions were real. It was like, no, it's all a lie. Everything's a lie. And then as I, like, read all these other texts, it was like, oh, no, that one's, like, a lie. This one's definitely not a lie. Like, Hinduism does not seem like a lie at all. Like, that is so not oppressive at all. It's the complete opposite. It makes a lot more sense. Oh, I might be a Hindu. Like, as a young age, it was like, this is my text now. No, wait. No experts. So that's, like, what I feel like I was trying to, I thought I was becoming an expert on the Bible. And then I realized There are no experts of the Bible. Like, what does that mean to be an expert of the Bible? Like our Father, you know? I don't know if any of this is making sense.
No, it's making sense to me. I'm hoping it makes sense to our listeners.
It just took a while to be able to break free from...
Yeah, it sounded like the trauma of the Bible had created such a wall for you coming out of...
Huge wall, yeah. Good point.
Your religion, that all truths in the world were now lies to you. So nothing could ever be true.
Yeah, or they required me to read a lot. So nursing school was like, there was purpose. I had to get my degree. So I like read all those texts. It was amazing to learn about the human body felt crazy.
Me, the first books that started to feel real to me were my science textbooks.
I guess, you know, like besides like all the sci-fi I liked to read, even when I left the church, I think you're right. I think the first kind of dull Bible-like text that I read was like in college, but it was probably anatomy.
Oh, for sure.
And I was like studying that shit religiously.
There's nothing like learning something in a textbook that's about a human body part and then going into class the next day, looking at that human body part dissected and at what you learned and how it functions. Yeah. It's like, that is so visceral, man. Yeah. Life-changing taking a class like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you make a good point. And like how that, you know, like what a good reason to go to college to help facilitate the bridge between the Bible and all other forms of hard-earning texts.
Totally.
You know, written recently and actively updated as the human body is discovered more. That's a fascinating connection, man.
Yeah.
Like the anatomy texts are always updating because we learn more and more and then learn that that's not true. Yeah. That is the Bible. That's more of a Bible than anything else.
Updating. Yeah.
It'd be crazy to update the Bible.
It's probably been updated many times.
Maybe it used to be like way better. Then they kept making it worse and worse and worse and cutting shit out.
Yeah.
Of course, it's been all of that, of course, yeah.
Well, and there has been books that have just never been in, at least the Bible we've read. There's been books that have been taken out.
Yep.
It's always an interesting argument that the Bible's never been edited.
Yeah, it's true.
Because we really don't know.
We know.
It feels edited.
The entire Bible is built for you and I to find ourselves on a podcast preaching against it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, don't believe that text.
Yeah.
Sure, I could say like there are things in that text that are positive and helpful. I mean, I got to benefit from all of the positive sides of Christian religion, right? A lot of great values in Christian religion. Sure. But they're just mixed into racist, sexist, oppressive living.
Yes.
So burn it. No, just kidding. Don't burn the Bible. It's a beautiful text. Everyone should read it. It should be requirement reading. It's a fascinating part of the entire human race.
Yes.
Because of colonialism.
And it's fascinating how many people believe it with their lives. Still.
Going down the list of books in the Bible, thinking about Judges is this scary book, and it scared me as a kid. Dad would make jokes about it because it was so like, don't, read it. Then you move down the list and you get to another book called The Song of Solomon. And that was we made a joke earlier, sexual. It's about love.
It was basically just a love letter.
It was just a love letter, but it was about sex. Don't you remember the oil on the handle, dripping from the handle?
It was a very detailed sex book.
I am 100% convinced that the reason why I'm a severe sexual hopeless romantic is because I read that book so much. Seriously, as a kid, I didn't know I connected with a level of sex through the Bible.
Also being raised with the idea that you have to have a wife and a family.
No, you mean like abstinence?
Yeah, abstinent until marriage. That also is kind of a romantic idea.
Ugh.
Yeah. No, I'm saying like being raised on it.
You know what's romantic to me is like seeing the person you love and being like, I'm going to put it in your butt when we get home, baby. I love you.
That's romance, baby.
That's romance.
That's
baby.
romance right there.
But if someone's like, you are not allowed to put it in her butt, even after you get married, or his butt, or anybody's butt, I'd be like, you can't tell me how to love. You can't tell me what romance is.
True.
Sorry, I know when I do that, it's distracting. But you said that we're funny. We are, right? We're trying to be funny here.
That got me giggling.
So Song of Solomon really was a sexual book to me as a kid. Like not getting into the sexual trauma of the Bible, or religion or religious trauma, the sexual trauma there, but like just as a kid, like that was the sexual book, and I would read that, and I would like, I didn't know what it meant, but I would actually like feel weird, fuzzy feelings. What?
Oh, I mean, go read the book. You'll see why you feel weird. Because you're 10 and 12, 13, dude. Anyone that would be like, why? It's like, go read Song of Solomon and put yourself in a 10-year-old's brain.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to, you can go read it. Or like,
there's reason to feel that way.
Go on ChatGPT and search, summarize the Song of Solomon. How is this hypersexualized for children? Bam.
Boom. Write an essay on it.
Then we go down right after Song of Solomon. Solomon, by the way, being the most smartest man to ever live.
Is that true?
Yeah, he had all knowledge. King Solomon. Then you get to Psalms, the book of songs.
Which was basically a book of songs. And
do you think that had like any sort of, like, tell me, like, how does the book of Psalms, you being a songwriter and a singer and...
Well, I read that book a lot. That's like, I would always flip to that book. Just...
Because it's easiest.
It's the easiest, and some of them are very beautiful.
Some of them are beautiful.
Yeah.
I totally agree. What's the most famous song that everyone knows on Green Pastures?
I don't know. I know what you're talking about, but I'm not going to recite it.
It's I know this is how far removed we are.
I'm so removed.
Let's talk about the Bible. But I can't even remember.
I've removed myself from the Bible for so many years that it is hard to talk about the Bible.
It's true.
It's hard to like, oh yeah, there is a lot about the Bible I want to talk about, but I'm not really fully confident I can be like,
you know what's awesome?
real.
Isn't that great to feel that though?
Yeah.
Like I used to be so on it, and now it's like, oh, I was never on it. I was just opinionated and oppressed, and I didn't know any better.
Opinionated and oppressed.
And didn't know any better. And then when I finally knew better, I was opinionated and felt oppressed when I never was oppressed.
Yeah.
I was just privileged.
Yeah.
Yeah, these lessons you learn. And then getting down the list, because I know that we're gonna jump into our game here in a second, but thinking about getting in, from Old Testament, which, going into the New Testament. And the Old Testament being just full of, I've said this before, but, it's just, God is just murders just so many people in the Old Testament.
It's true.
Just obliterates whole cities. He turned people into pillars of salt. That is crazy. Could you imagine being in a town and all of a sudden somebody turned in a pillar of salt in front of you? You'd vomit. You'd poop your pants. You'd be so scared.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Terrifying.
So the Old Testament's violent and brutal and full of murder. And the New Testament, the Savior story, the most famous verse in the entire Bible. Ready? We're going to do it together. Just kidding. We don't have to say it.
Well, it's John 3:16, right?
John 3:16. Okay. You know it. You know it.
I don't want to recite it though.
For God's love, I can't even really remember it all the way. I've actually, every once in a while, I'll start saying it. And this is weird. I think it's because of the cast is bringing up some stuff.
Bringing it back.
But it'll be like John 3:16. And I'm like, for God so loved. Nathan.
No, for me, mine's is the Romans Road. That was
Romans
burnt.
Road.
That was burnt in my brain.
Which one's that?
For I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ.
Oh, you're not though.
I used to be so ashamed.
I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, which comes from the word, which the gospel of Christ is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These are the 4 different accounts of Jesus. It's like, so you're telling me 4 men, different versions of what happened to Jesus.
Jesus never wrote a book.
Sounds like none of them could agree on anything. So they were like, you know what? We're going to keep all 4 in. So there's all these churches that are based off of, like the Church of Mark, the Church of John, the Church of Matthew.
Really?
Yeah. Of course.
Interesting.
No, these white men can't agree on anything. I know who crucified. I know they pierced him that was at noon. They pierced him at noon. No, it was 3, John.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's can't really trust that book.
It sounds like a good opportunity to I don't know, do you want to, we might keep talking about the Bible. I mean, talking about our religious trauma is endless. And so it is nice to have structure. Is there anything else like on the top of your head right now, just actual trauma from the Bible that
just
you want to drop on the gas?
Just with how much you had to read it in our family. Like it's something I am really starting to realize that we talk about this broad picture of religious trauma that I think some of the people we were raised with can tell us, can agree. They had like a similar household, but a lot of people didn't. And our household was just very strict with our dad was the pastor. So it's like, yeah, it's just different. I think being a pastor's kid, it's like the Bible was open every morning. At lunch, if you're really trying to be a soldier.
Yeah, if you're trying to be a soldier.
And then in the evening before bed. And when I was going through a lot of my anxiety, starting at 10, when it really started to hit, I was only told to read the Bible. And so I would read the Bible, but I had such a hard time with the other books that I would hyper focus on Psalms. So I read Psalms so much just because I know if I read the Word of God, it would heal me, it would help me.
Would it help your anxiety go away?
It would distract me.
Really?
Like you're supposed to do when you have a panic attack. You're supposed to distract yourself. So it's when I'm having a panic attack these days, I force myself to do something, walk the dog, make music, just go do it. Because the second I start doing it, I'm distracted and it helps the anxiety, or at least the panic. The anxiety will always be there. But being raised in our family, and especially so heavily on this religion, I was only told to read the Bible and to focus on what God has. If like God's just trying to tell you something, God's trying to tell you something. So I'd hyper read the Bible, and I was never fucking told shit. That's like the way it felt, dude. And it just caused a lot of issues when that book wasn't true for me anymore.
Yeah.
Because I just relied on it a lot. I relied on reading the Word of God. It wasn't what the words were. It was the Bible. And it's powerful. So if you read it, it'll speak to you. So you're just told. So you fucking read it, dude.
You read it.
I read it real hard.
Yep.
Real hard. And I wasn't a good reader. So that was really tough for me.
Yeah. Or I don't know. I would maybe beg to differ.
Yeah.
I think
Well, I think I'm a great reader now, man. I went through a couple different learning phases in my life because I was kind of held back from a lot of, I talked about it on a previous cast, but just I wasn't put into school until later, and it caused a lot of issues for when I learned certain things. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that a lot of kids learn in like grade school that I didn't really get, and that I got kind of sped up on later in reading's one of them, where it's like I wasn't a good reader till about college, where it was when you're taking an anatomy class and you have to read so much and memorize so much.
Academically,
academically, I was forced to become a great reader.
There's pleasure reading too. Like and that's what's nice now, right? Is being able to find a book that works for your schedule.
Yeah.
But damn, man, yeah, I'm listening to you. One of the first things you read was talking about how it's tunnel vision, or like it definitely doesn't cause open-mindedness. It causes closed-mindedness. And so like if you're a kid with anxiety and ultimately you're being funneled to the same law which is this insane book full of names, murders, sex, songs, powerful, whatever, different version accounts of the crucifixion and all these things. And they're like told to go read this. And you're like, so it's kind of the way I'm hearing it is it's like you were having anxiety. So the anxiety would go away because you were distracting yourself by reading the Bible. But then you were only reading the book of Psalms because that was easiest. Mm-hmm. So then like, I wonder if this had an effect on your choices of dealing with anxiety growing up, right? Like instead of choosing the hard work, I'm talking like as a kid when it came to like, because reading's hard work.
Yeah.
And it does relieve anxiety. That's like proven just by reading. And so obviously it was working in some way for a young kid. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if like this sort of funneling and closed-mindedness, or not wondering, I know, like I have an idea, but like, just adds to more anxiety, right? Because like in the end, there's no way out. So when you get to the point of thinking for yourself, tell me if I'm wrong, how did you deal with your anxiety? Like, I know you were feeling it at 10, but then when you started to think...
I didn't for a long time. That's why I think I had multiple like breakdown moments in my life that really affected huge parts of my life was because I wasn't dealing with it, but I also wasn't taught to deal with it. And when I started to be taught to deal with it, I realized how much of the things in my life I just wasn't taught. And then that brought on more anxiety. And then now I'm 30 and I look back at a lot of just damage from our upbringing, man. That it's like, I think that's a lot of my anxiety is our upbringing, and not that I'm an anxious person. It's like, I think I'm actually a really strong person when I'm not doing my old ways of thinking. At least that's what I think psilocybin's starting to teach me.
Yeah.
Is that I have a lot of old habit thoughts.
Maybe psilocybin, the way I've been like you bringing that up, thinking about how your anxiety started, you're saying around 10, and then you'd be funneled into reading the Bible to deal with it. And then you'd only read the book of Psalms and stuff. Like psilocybin maybe brings in the innocence before 10, before the anxiety. Because you had all this time before you were reading the Bible because you were a kid, 10 years maybe, before you're like Evan's age right now, which is why Evan's age is so special right now. It's like it all starts to happen now.
It does. It's true, man.
And you can see it on him.
I love it.
But it's also scary because we know what happened to us.
Yeah.
At least I know how, and it's not the same for him.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating that it's when I been in therapy and thinking about these casts and talking about things and working on a lot of my own healing, and what this podcast has helped do is bring up visceral memories of my youth that are normally 10, 11, 12. And the last time I did psilocybin, a full dose, and I told them, I had this memory of mom and dad in the field or whatever, and I was maybe 3 or 4, running, and they were smiling and looked like the 90s. And it felt like a real memory, and I just cried because it was like, oh, there's so much life in my life that are stronger than I've ever been. I think I was the strongest, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It was my strongest years. The innocence was so strong. It's nothing could break me.
Yeah.
There was no trauma forming yet. Or, there was, but you know what I mean? It feels like there's an innocence there that is so pliable, so neuroplastic. Everything is received, and you can kind of handle a lot of trauma at that age because it doesn't last.
Yeah.
It kind of ricochets, and you're like,
Yeah, it's true.
And then 12 hits, and you're like, ah.
Exactly. That's it. You just absorb everything after that.
And so maybe psilocybin helps right before that anxiety at 10, before the Bible reading. What was going on? Zach was just receiving.
Yeah, exactly.
We're playing slingshots. We got dinosaurs in the back Pengrove yard, breaking our arms, skateboarding, building ramps. We were so into rollerblading.
Yeah.
But parts of our youth that weren't just Bible reading, it's there is that. There's so much of that. And most of our lives were together, creating things, doing things, whatever. It's important to remember that. But also that, I think that psilocybin maybe helps feel that innocent of our youth, that inner child.
Also, the brain of the youth. That's what it feels like to me.
The brain of the youth.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. What do you mean?
It's not spiritually your inner child, but legit mentally your inner child. It feels, you can, even just microdosing it, I feel like my brain thinks a little differently, but it's not differently in a weird way. It's more of a different understanding of certain things.
Yeah.
And especially of past trauma.
Yeah.
And like you said, youth that I don't really remember anymore, but I can feel it.
Yeah.
I know what it felt like to be 8 and 7. I remember that feeling.
Yeah.
And it's different after a certain age. And that's when I get shaky when I think about 10, 11, and 12, because it was a lot of anxiety, a lot of trauma, a lot of Bible reading.
Yeah, a lot of Bible reading.
A lot of Bible reading, a lot of just me, my mom and dad, me reading my Bible, a lot of anxiety, and so it's just not the happiest of times. But Yeah. We're learning more and more with the psilocybin world.
And with the cast.
Definitely with the cast, psilocybin together.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, yeah, you mix the two.
Yeah, the trauma starts really coming.
That's a recipe for positive truth telling.
Mm.
We're about an hour, so thanks for sharing that, man, and good talk. And thanks for listening, everybody, or watching. And if you're still with us, we're going to go ahead and go on over to the Game Cam. Rituals. We're into rituals on this cast.
It's actually really cool, though. I like how we both have really liked that one because every single time I'm on the cast or like I'm editing, I'm like, oh, here comes the part. And it's like instantly in the headphones go, Game Cam. And then your music starts. And it's like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
This is the part that we film without music and we just have a moment. But then once the music's there, it's like, ooh, this is a whole different vibe with the music.
Every single time I like put the music in the beginning and then I do the game cam music and then I do the last little bit of music. Every time I'm like editing it, it's like, should we just have music the whole cast? But it changes the whole vibe,
Totally
right?
changes the whole vibe.
I like the rawness. But yeah, if you're listening, the music in the background from yours truly, Nene from the Bay.
Nene from the Bay.
Gonna be a lot of work to release this Game Track album, and we talked about it the last week, and at some point I will get there and do it. But you know, speaking of music, before we jump into Jenga 3.0, is
Indeed.
it 3.0, right?
This is to be 3.0, yeah. Maybe 4.0, but
Megan has been like pushing me to do two things, like really bringing them up a lot.
Good.
I think this is psilocybin power, like just the innocence. Is she's brought two hip hop tracks to me. She's like, can we please do it like a remix of these tracks together to make them dance tracks together? And I was like, you want to take your hip hop, like the songs you love hip hop, and make them into like deep house tracks? And she's like, yeah, and I want to like sing, like. And she's like brought it up to me. I'm like, okay, I feel lucky to like, I'm being pushed now by my fiance to do music with her.
So do it.
Right.
What's wrong with you, man?
Second thing is she said that I need to, she thinks I really need to sign up for an acting class.
Yeah, that sounds exciting, man.
Yeah. And
dude,
so I think I might do some private acting classes.
I really want you to get more into acting because I've always wanted to get more into acting and I just am not going to push for it. But I know if you do
you're pushing so much into your music, right? Like
I'm putting everything into my music, but I think an acting class would be really good.
It scares me, but it's like, it feels so right because I've always wanted to. You know, I've always wanted to do acting. I've always just been like, nah, I'm not. That wouldn't be from, you know, like, it's like, what is that? So Megan has been like a wonderful force of nature in my life that's just like a supportive love. She's just like, dude, all you do is act. You're just characters. You're never not characters. She's like, you need to take an acting class. I think you'd be so happy. And I was like, I think I'd be really happy in an acting class. Like even if it was a private once a week.
Are you going to look at the junior college or what are you going to look into?
I think I'm going to look into like
a private
acting classes.
Wow, dude. That would be pretty fun.
Yeah, like sitting with somebody like, bigger, cry.
Is that what acting is?
I don't know. It's just like the way I imagine like real Juilliard style like training would be like really intense, and I would love that shit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, one-on-one acting classes.
You're like, big mouse, now you're scared.
Not scared. Get some headshots taken.
Oh, yeah. Get a couple sitcoms. No, I'm just kidding. No, just because like I think I want to do it.
Yeah.
I just like love acting, and that's all I actually do. And she was saying like, why don't you've never just done what you always do every day?
Yeah.
And I think she's on like that's what part of this podcast is, right? It's part of it's acting. It's performative, and so I love it. And I think this has opened now that episode 30 is here. It's opened up the door to like, what else can we do on camera? Oh, that's right. The simplest part of it, just normal acting. Like, hey, here's a character and here's a script. Be that character. Be them.
Yeah.
Own it. Now do that in front of camera. It's like, so fun.
Well, and it's a good skill to get good at.
Yeah. It's a good skill to get good at. Yeah. Get good.
I think if you're good in front of a camera, that's good, especially in today's day and age.
Always. For a long time.
Yeah.
Everything's a short, right, Zach?
Everything's a short. Right, Nate?
You said it, buddy.
No, I said it.
Let's get over to Jenga 3.0.
Let's get over
Who won the
Jenga.
Last one?
Last Jenga?
Yeah.
You won the last Jenga.
Did I really?
We're even on Jenga. This is a tiebreaker right
I haven't done a recent like look back at past episodes? Should we look back at when I won the last game?
Yeah, you should. We're going to look right here.
Yeah. And we're back.
That
was me winning in Jenga 2.0, which means winners go first on those boys. We don't believe everyone gets first place. We don't believe in first place. We just believe in winners going first.
We believe in last place, though.
Yeah, and
100%.
And middle.
And when Jesus puts you in last, you accept it, young man.
Oh, wow. Let's get started.
Nathan is taking the first move. And God damn it.
Gotcha.
Straight almost gave me a heart attack, man. So loud.
I barely made a noise.
So loud.
It's funny because I feel so quiet in my own headphones. You have to use the same hand. Just kidding. I won't play that way. Sorry, is your mic in your way?
That's kind of part of it, no?
If you're listening and you're still listening, leave a comment. Let us know where you're listening from, because if you're listening while we're playing a game that's visual, good for you. You must really love our podcast.
Definitely, if you've made it this far, can you please let us know, one, who you are, and also where you're listening from, what you're doing. If you're watching, please let us know you're watching. And if you're listening, please let us know you're listening, because I want to be like, who's actually hearing this part of the cast? Yeah. I want to know who I can talk to.
You know what's funny is I've had a couple people ask me, like, what's the point of the games? And I've always said, well, a lot of people think we're having a podcast about religious trauma, but this actually all started as a display of art of two brothers reconnecting.
Yeah.
That's how it all started.
Yeah.
And the games were added to do more like hanging out with each other and forcing ourselves to play a game together. Yeah. And so that's why. This is for us.
Yeah.
And someday when George Bush is being interviewed by us, he's playing Jenga
68.42.
You'll know why.
But how funny would that be? Like every time we have a guest, we have them pull up right here.
Yeah.
And it's like, you get to play the game with us.
That's why I think Mario Kart would be a fun game to play.
It would be fun.
I know we'd have to get sponsored by Nintendo. You heard it here. We're sponsored by Nintendo now.
The angle of the Jenga is a little off-putting, but
this is normally
Daddy's here to eat.
Oh, God. What did you just say? I thought we agreed. You heard that from back of house.
Wait, I said I wasn't going to say daddy anymore?
Yeah.
I don't think I agreed.
We even agreed that everything a fan wants, we do.
No, you agreed to that. No, because I said that's off-putting. It was a pun.
Sorry, I'm focusing.
Okay.
It's like...
Ooh, mommy in the back over here said we need to come up with a punishment.
Mommy? Zach, stop! I'm so sick of the daddy and the mommies, man. Vomit. Although I'll be. I said it twice to Megan over the last week as a joke, and I hated it every time. I couldn't even finish it.
Said daddy or mommy?
I was like, hey babe, daddy hungry for dinner? I'm sorry. And she'd be like, stop. No, don't do it. And I'd be like, I have a hard time even trying.
It's your approach. You gotta own it, dude.
No, I can't. Dude. I'm like,
and you gotta say it a little. You just like, dude, man, daddy hungry right now. You gotta own it.
It's a dangerous one. This is a good game.
This is gonna be a good game. When I
know that the game cam right now is probably too, like, the Jengas are too high, Jenga pieces. So I think the last time it built above it, which was funny because then it started just to build above the camera shot. Sugar doo 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 doo. Jenga. We're really giving a lot of promotion to these games.
What? With our 40 viewers.
Hey, thank you for watching.
No, I'm just saying not a lot of promotion.
I still think one person's worth $1 billion.
I think one person's worth $1 trillion.
Well, that's impossible. There's not 1 trillion people on the planet, so that's not necessarily something we can perceive or conceive. I can perceive it, but I can't conceive it. every single time we're setting up for the podcast, Zach tends to trip over something, bump into something, knock something over.
No, I don't.
So I came up with this great idea for Halloween, and that's for you to be Bigfoot this year.
No, you said that because you think I have huge feet.
I actually do think you have huge feet. You have big feet.
You just have like 1/2 of a foot size smaller than mine. And you are taller than me.
I wear 6 foot. I wear 6.5.
No, you do not.
Okay, fine. I wear 7s.
777 going to heaven. How about you?
I'm just kidding. No, it's like 9.5. I wear 9.
Do you remember that guy?
777
going to heaven. How about you?
Yes, I do remember that. Please don't remind me.
He secretly was doing ecstasy.
Yeah, well, who was that?
I mean, I don't remember his actual name. It was at the church in, I don't want to say the city, but starts with a P and ends with an Uma.
Oh, wow. You're bringing back some history. Well, thanks for that one.
No thanks for history. Not on this cast.
Thanks for that one. Bam. Right now, I am in the lead.
Why do you say you're in the lead?
Because I knew you were going to ask me why I'm saying I'm in the lead. Because I'm in the lead. Because I'm a winner from the last game. Which means I'm carrying that off until I lose. I'm winning.
This is a tough one.
Yeah. You win for a tough one.
You win for a tough one.
That's a toughie. That's a Jenga toughie. Toughie Jenga. Toughie Jenga.
All right. So this is
where are you going, man? What are you going to do? Oh, okay. Well, we put that one. Oh! You just lost.
No.
Yes, one piece.
One
piece falling, right? Is a crash. Yes, that's a yes. Back of house agrees. One piece fell.
She did not agree.
Dude,
it was one piece.
We're so lucky right now that Chantel is here because she's Googling actually if the bottom piece, top piece falls, does it count as a loss? We're waiting. Oh my gosh, dude! You just lost in the stupidest way ever. Oh my!
I mean, if you wanna accept a win, that's stupid.
Oh, that's like the best win, Zach. You win. You dropped one Jenga piece and you just lost. And look at the beautiful tower. All right. We can finish if you want.
Oh,
but we know who won.
We'll see what the comment section says. And they'll say nothing.
I just don't know where to put this now that it fell.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't, because it fell. But how does it go on top? It fell. I think we should leave them out. My turn. Okay.
You gotta take one of those.
Nope. Go screw yourself.
Yeah, get another one out. There you go. Oh, great. It's totally fair.
Yeah, that's how I play. Oh, easy.
Who is sawing right now?
Dude, I'm telling you, man. They're getting ready for
this. It was so distracting.
Yeah, they're getting ready for the storm that just passed.
Pretty much. All right, for our only listeners, if you've actually not completely stopped listening, Nate supposedly used one because I had one piece.
Supposedly,
now he got mad and hit it, but then it didn't fall. It just twisted into this weird.
There's no speculation here.
Form now that is barely balancing on anything, and we're going back and forth. But obviously, Nate won this game.
Oh, thank you.
Look at that.
How'd you do that?
Yeah, you should see how it's balancing now, big boy. Daddy might have lost, but he's not going to make the Towie go dowie. Graphic designer's laughing. Graphic designer's laughing. I said daddy, and she started laughing.
I will walk out. Can you actually say? Can you say begging for? Can you say daddy begging? Can you say daddy begging for dinner? But can you say it in your voice?
I would never say it like that.
Why not?
It's just not.
So you have rules for what you're allowed to. Yes! Yes.
See, okay, now you actually won.
Looks like father is starving. Father's starving. You heard it here. Daddy ain't hungry. Father is starving. That's right. Every time you say that, I'm going to say father's starving.
I don't really say daddy hungry anymore.
You just said father's starving. Try me again, bro. Keep picking up those pieces. Jenga's always such a fun game. It's so good for the cast, you know.
It's great for the
cast. It
cast.
feels like a good game for us. All right. Well, as always,
we need some different games.
I know. I think at this point, it's just whoever's watching right now. Thank you, but like, I think like if we got to Jenga 10.0, whoever watches that, it's gonna be great. It's fun every time. You know?
Yeah,
it doesn't really matter. We have the putt game is really fun.
That one's really fun.
That's why I think though we need to get.
You should what?
We could even just bring a TV out here
and do something like Mario
with that and hook up the Switch and do Mario Kart.
Yeah. To like with the balloon battles, whatever they are.
Because we could just put my phone on the TV.
And then for the game cam.
For the game cam.
Yeah, true.
So there's ways to branch out.
Yeah. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But well, I love you, man.
Love you too.
And I love you, Chantel. Thanks for being here. Let's wrap this up. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week, and that's where we're going to be. We're going to be right here doing the same thing, talking about some different stuff.
Talking about some different
things, but we will be back here doing the same thing. You're going to go on, have your work week, and we're going to come back over here, and we're going to be talking about some different stuff. Right here, though.
In case I don't see you, good evening, good night, good luck.
Isn't it?
What is it?
Good morning, good afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. Can't really remember it, can you? Good luck.
Good morning, good
Truman
afternoon.
Show. Do you remember it? No. All right, I'm out of here. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Not in this one. I'm talking about the Bible.